In my previous video, I told you that if I wrote 5x, that means 5 times x. So we leave out the multiplication sign when we're writing algebra. Now, if I write 1x, I actually don't usually write 1x. I just usually say x, because one lot of anything is just itself. Remembering x can be a variable, so x could be equal to 100. 1 times 100 is 100. X is 100, right? So multiplying something by 1 doesn't actually do anything. So if you see an x by itself, it is 1x. It's a solitary x. If it's any other number other than 1, then yeah, sure, it's a certain number of x's, how many it is. Right, okay, we leave the 1 out. We also have, we don't write, let's say, x divided by 7. We don't usually write the divide. I mean, we're not writing times. Well, we write divide. Okay, so in algebra, we would write x over 7. So you know all the stuff we've done with fractions. When you have a fraction, you are really just getting the top number. You're showing what you get when you get the top number and divide it by the bottom number. So x divided by 7, we would write as a fraction like this. Now, that's where we get the division symbol from in the first place, right? Imagine if I wrote x over 7 really, really small. Here's my x, and I'm just going to draw the bar the same size, and here's my 7. Okay, looks like a divide, doesn't it? So when you're doing algebra, get into the habit that if you're doing multiplying, you put the number in front of the pronumeral, and you have got a term, which means multiply. And here, if you have a division, put x over 7 like that. Now, I could actually write this in one other way. That is also equal to 1/7 times x. Notice how I've got this 7th here in front of the x, and that means 1/7 times x. Now, just to show you that these two things mean the same thing, I'll put a number in there instead, right? I'm going to put a number in instead of x. Let's say, what if x equals 14, right? If x is 14, that means x over 7, which I've got up here, would be equal to 14 over 7. You following me? I've just got that, I've said that x is equal to 14, so let's pop it there and say, okay, 14 over 7. This one here, 1/7 of x, there, is equal to 1/7 times 14, if x is 14, right? So, 14 divided by 7 equals 2. What's 1/7 of 14? If you had to divide 14 up into 7 equal pieces, 1/7 would equal 2. So, when you write it this way, or this way, it's the same, and you can switch back and forth between them. The other thing that we're going to look at is using brackets as grouping symbols. Grouping symbols. So let's say I had a 7, and I have a bracket, and I have x plus 2. Okay, it looks like we're getting more complicated here, but it's actually not that much more complicated. The 5 in front of the x means times. The 7 in front of this means times 2. So this is 7 times x plus 2. So I can imagine if x is a variable, if x is a number, right? If x was 4, then 4 plus 2 would be 6 times 7, which is 42. The whole thing would be worth 42. If x was equal to -1, -1 plus 2, starting at -1, going up, get up to +1. +1 times 7 is 1. So when you see a set of brackets like this, that 7 is being multiplied by what's inside these brackets. And we're going to look at that in a bit more detail a bit later on. If I had x plus 2 over 7, right, what does it mean if there's a division bar there? It means that I'm dividing this top part by the 7. So you kind of have an imagined bracket around that. So whatever that is on top, you divide that by 7. So probably best we do a few examples of these and then we can work from there.